I had done The King and I with Jerome Robbins prior to this. And Jerry, before he left for New York, said to me, I'm going to be doing a musical in New York called West Side Story, and it's based on Romeo and Juliet, and I think you would be a wonderful Maria, he said. Because at the time, I was all Maria. And he said, would you come and audition when the time comes in New York? And I said, oh, sure. When the time came, I absolutely crapped out because I was too scared. I had done too many movies at that time. And in movies, you can always do it again. And you are really severely overprotected. And I was scared to death of doing an audition, a live audition. I just couldn't do it. My agent said, but you gotta go, my God, this is Jerome Robbins. I said, I can't do it. I just can't do it. About a year and a half later, I went to see the play in New York, and I just thought, oh, wow. Chita Rivera was playing Anita at the time. Carol Lawrence was playing Maria. Right. And I thought, oh boy, I really goofed. But, okay, so let's go forward about 2 to 3 more years, and the film is going to be made. And Jerome Robbins is going to do it, and Robert Wise is co-directing with Jerry Robbins. Well, they auditioned every dark-haired girl in California and outside of California for Maria, and thank you, and for Anita. They did not, because it's going to be asked, they did not audition Chita. Don't ask me why, I'll never know. She was spectacular in it. She really was spectacular. Movies, as we know, that way. And at that point, I no longer looked like a Maria. I looked like an Anita. So I did my acting audition first, and it was, I think, Jerry who said, we got to see Rita Moreno. So I was brought in, and I rehearsed a scene, for the candy store scene from West Side Story.
Oh my gosh!
And
that was your audition, please?
Yeah. Well, they gave me sides, and that's the one they wanted me to audition for. Yeah.
Wow.
Well, there were 3 separate auditions: singing, dancing, acting. That was the acting audition. And I remember that at the end of the scene, I was so overwrought that I threw the script on the ground, which was a wonderful thing. They were very impressed. Then I did the singing audition. That was fine. And then Jerry Robbins said to me, okay, now you got to do the dancing audition. But he said, I have to tell you, he said, I really want you in this. But if you don't cut the dancing, you don't get the part.
Oh, gosh.
I had not danced at that time. I was the oldest member of the cast also when it did happen. I had not danced since I was 17 in an MGM movie. I hadn't danced at all.
No classes, no nothing.
At all. And I swallowed really hard, and I said, when would you like me to audition? He said, well, you have at least a month, because maybe even a little longer, because we have so many people to see before, we even get to that part of the auditions. I ran to the local dancing school and took classes in ballet and tap and jazz. I had never done jazz in my life. I was a Spanish dancer. And believe me, they're worlds apart. One has nothing to do with the other. Jazz, which is what they call the dancing that you see in West Side Story, is just a whole nother creature. And I started taking classes from 9 in the morning till 6 in the evening. I was killing myself. You can imagine. Imagine yourself, whatever it is that's hard for you, whether it's running, jogging, all day long, with occasional breaks, or playing sets of tennis from 9 in the morning till 6 in the evening, whatever. That's what I was doing. It got so bad that I used to, by the time the day was over and I would go into the ladies' room to put some cold water on my face, I would raise a fever. I literally raised a fever every single day. The only thing that saved me was my youth from, having something horrible happen to me. One teacher stopped me after class one day. She said, I don't want you in my class anymore. And I said, why? Because it was a jazz class. And she said, because you turn a funny shade of purple.
You were killing yourself.
And she said, I'm afraid something's going to happen to you. And if it's going to happen, I don't want it to happen in my class.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, that's really how bad it was. I was just purple from head to toe, purple. And then I just doubled up. I did another class. And it was very difficult. It was very, very, I had no technique whatsoever. None.
Just to get the stamina back. I mean, just to...
And, I was already, as I said, for that time, I was 25, 26, something like that. I never remember dates. Finally, after about a month, they still hadn't called me. I called up a girlfriend in absolute desperation who had played Anita on the road in a road company of West Side Story, and her name was Deborah. And I said, is there any way you can help me? Because I know I'm still not ready. I know I'm not ready. So I said, I really want this part so badly. She said, well, I'll tell you what I'll do. I will teach you a piece of America and a piece of the Mambo at the Gym, which they sometimes use, excuse me, for the auditions. She said, sometimes they don't. They'll use another part, but she said, you're not going to have time to learn all of it. Oh, that's right, because they already called and had set the date for the audition. So I had about a week and a half.
Oh my gosh, your clock was ticking.
So Deborah just worked with me, all day long between my classes.
Oh.
And she taught me the first section of America, and she taught me the one of the sections, I can't remember which one, of the Mambo at the Gym. Comes the day for the audition, I can tell you my heart was in my mouth because I desperately wanted this. I knew I could play this role. I mean, I knew Anita. And I went into audition for the Howard Jeffries, who still lived in New York City Ballet, who was Jerome Robbins' assistant dance director. And he held the auditions. And he said to me, took me by the hand, he said, okay, I'm going to teach you a piece of America. And then, after a while, you're going to do it for me. But you're not only going to do it for me, you're going to perform it. That's the difference with auditioning for singing or acting. You get quite a while. You can come in with your own songs. They just have to hear your voice. And with a scene, you study it until you're ready to audition, and you go in and audition. With a dance audition, you learn it and you perform it. You don't dance it, you perform it. You know what I'm saying. Well, of course, you're all in the business. And I said, okay. And he starts to teach me the section that Deborah taught me.
Oh.
For America.
God's hand.
It's sneaky. It was sneaky, but anyway, I did it back for him. And he said, okay, that's good, he said. And then he taught me, he said, I'm going to teach you a section from the Mambo at the Gym. Okay, because by then I'm just sweating bullets. All right, we got through that one. And he teaches me the section that Deborah taught me.
Oh my gosh.
And they really didn't always do the same ones. And, eventually I did that, and then I performed it for him with a skirt, because you had to come in with a full skirt to do skirt stuff. I found out months and months and months later, Jerry was very anxious to find out how I did. Because it was up to Howard to say, she can do this, or not. Jerry was very anxious to have me in the movie, and he called Howard and he said, so? And Howard said, well, it's obvious she really needs work. And he said, but he said, I think she can do it. But he said, you know what's really amazing? She learns so fast. I never told anybody. Howard to this day doesn't know.
Oh, Howard better not see this.
But meantime, just the other day, I was looking through a bunch of my pictures, of which there are many, and there were some from West Side Story rehearsal, and there is the most gratifying photograph from the back of me where I'm doing an attitude turn with the skirt flying all over the place, and I'm up in the air with this attitude turn, and there's Jerry facing the camera, looking very pleased, which he didn't do too much of. So it's very nice.
That's lovely. Well, speaking of your work in West Side Story, of course, that's what you won your Oscar for.
Yeah.
And first of all, you have to know that everybody in this room is so blown away that you weren't on top of your dance game because you are so marvelous in every aspect of that film. Dancing, singing, and otherwise.
Well, I have Jerry to thank for that. And also Howard Jeffries really, really, really just literally broke a step down from its inception for me, because I really didn't know where the impulse came from with those kind of steps. They were so unfamiliar to me. He really, really helped me so much.
But your desire was so great. Your desire.
Yes, because I heard recently from someone who was an extra in the Mambo at the Gym sequence in the movie. And she said, you know, you really taught me something about what it takes to be in this business. And I said, really? She told me she was an extra, a dance extra. And she said, whenever they called a 10-minute break, she said, you never sat down. You rehearsed the steps. I said, really? I don't remember that. I said, really? She says, you never, ever sat down. The only time you sat, she said, was either go to the bathroom or for lunch. So, yeah. I worked very hard.
Well, I have to ask you about a scene. And I'm sure you've been asked a million times because it's the one song that you had to also be dubbed.
Yeah, A Boy Like That.
Boy Like That.
Yeah.
And yet at the end of that scene, your acting work, your work in it is so exquisite and so beautifully realized. As you sing, it's absolutely gorgeous. And were you singing to Betty Wan's voice on the set?
I was. What happened was that the reason I was unable to sing that song is that my range wasn't, I didn't have a low voice. I really was a coloratura at the time. And that song has a range like that. You may notice if you have the album with Cheetah, that in the high stuff, she has to scream the notes out. Very smart, Maria, very smart. Those I could hit, but I couldn't do a boy like that. In fact, when I tried to, all you heard was air. I could not make a sound, so they had to find somebody to my eternal sadness, because I really didn't like the way she sang it. I was there when she recorded it, but I couldn't make my feelings, she just didn't get it, what I was trying to do with it. I wanted it to be, like that, a boy like that who kill you. Forget the singing part of it. That's not what's important in that song. It's the emotion and the passion. And she's doing things like a boy like that who killed your brother. And the accent wasn't thrilling either, for me. And I'm not making fun. That she did the best she could.
Well, it's such a bizarre notion to take that away from the actor, the voice.
And it's very, very difficult for me to watch it because I start doing this. I'm trying to make the voice do what you're seeing, because what I was doing and what she was doing were really at loggerheads. They were not the same thing.
So how difficult was it for you on the set to be doing your work and hearing that voice?
I was killing myself doing the growling and all that kind of stuff, and of course her voice was kind of smooth, and it was very difficult. It was really, really, really hard.
Well, your work is still exquisite.
The funny thing, though, is that she now claims that she dubbed all of my stuff. Isn't that interesting? And more than that, the newer Columbia copies of the album have her name on it for everything. I suppose I could sue. The thought of it exhausts me. But but imagine taking credit for doing that.
That's
yeah. For the record, that's why I brought it up, because yeah.
Well, you can
everything
tell it's
else
you,
was
but you
me.
can hear your voice. I mean, when it is you, that's all of that is there. That life, that through line, what you're doing, all of it is there.